Alright YouTube, so today's video is a video that I didn't really want to make, but I've never actually seen this made before, and I'm pretty sure it could help a lot of people out there. It certainly would have been the kind of thing I would have liked to watch when I first started welding myself. So today, we're going to be talking about how to fix porosity properly. And one of the main reasons I'm making this video is I've seen a lot of people who are newer to welding who, you know, bless their hearts, are just like, oh, I got all kinds of porosity on this first pass, so I just welded over it, and this truck frame will probably be fine. And that's not really the best way to go about this. You know, honestly, on a lot of non-critical stuff, if you're doing like metal art stuff or whatever, you could do that and probably get away with it. I know that'll make the keyboards whine, the keyboard commandos whine, but everything makes the keyboard commandos whine, right? But on anything remotely critical like this is a shop press. This, trailers, truck frames, anything that's going to be supporting people or that could have someone be injured or killed if it fails, definitely not the kind of thing where you just want to do this. So specifically what we're going to be talking about is porosity. This also goes for a lot of other welding defects. So we're going to be talking about exactly how to remove a mess like this by means of a traditional electric angle grinder, because it's going to happen to you if you're going to be welding. And anybody who says they don't deal with problems like this, I don't care what they tell you, they're either a liar or they never do anything, or both. So let's take a look at this. So this specific porosity here is what I refer to as random porosity. I've been doing a lot of dual shield flux core welding lately, and it has been flawless. It's gone great, it's gone beautiful, up to and including this morning. And then I'm just welding along, and all of a sudden just spatter everywhere. I stop welding and there's like huge chunks in the welds. Down this section here, tried a few different things. You know, I adjusted my voltage, triple checked my gas, made sure we're not leaking, made sure we had plenty of gas in the cylinder, all the things you're supposed to do. By the way, those are the things you're supposed to do. And it got a little bit better like here, and then it started up again. So I pitched the wire, and now instead of using the dual shield flux core, we're going to just be using some 35 thousandths hard wire. Right now this is just short circuit MIG, but actually I'm going to switch that gas out to a 90-10 blend so we can do some true spray art, because for something like a shop press made out of 1/4-inch steel wall thickness material here, I really want the extra strength, the extra penetration, and better mechanical properties that process offers. So basically when you get a weld like this, the first thing to do is identify what's going on, and this is one reason why I always keep my chipping hammer near me and I don't weld out like half of this entire thing and then I'm like, oh, I better clean a weld. Oh my god! That would really suck. So as a rule of thumb, if you're doing any kind of wire feed process, because those are the finicky ones, especially flux core, dual shield flux core, because those, it can look fine when you're welding it and then you clean the slag and you have a bunch of crap like this. Definitely don't go more than like a couple feet of weld before you stop and clean things, just to make sure everything's still running right, because if it's not, it's really best to find out sooner rather than later, because that determines how much of this crap you're going to have to remove. What you're going to want to do is take a traditional grinding wheel. This is my 5-inch Milwaukee electric angle grinder, just a traditional hard abrasive wheel, and we're just going to start removing the bulk of this material. Now ultimately we're going to grind to a depth where you can't see all these holes in the weld anymore. This only goes so deep. Now granted, how deep it goes might be clear out the back of the other material, of the other side of the material, but it only goes so deep. Sometimes this will be easier, it'll just be on the surface. Sometimes it goes like all the way through the joint, but you basically just have to start grinding until you got the bulk of this. Some things to keep in mind: I'm going to try to go in here with about this much of an angle, I would say. You don't want to be plowing like straight in, because we're going to cut away the toes of our next weld up here, and then we'll have undercut to fill in basically before we even strike the arc. So you don't want to do that, but generally just try to remove the bulk of this, and then we'll get in there a little tighter and a little more precise with another grinder here momentarily. So let's see. Alright, so you know, honestly, this might not be as deep as I was afraid of that. You know, the weld's obviously pretty deep. We're a full 1/8 inch below the surface of the metal now, and there's still weld in there. So pretty happy with that, but I'm also happy with the fact that the porosity doesn't seem to go much deeper. There's just a few little tiny pock marks up in here. And so I'll focus my aim a little further down, and then we'll take out another pass on that bottom plate. thing you might want to do is take a wire brush like this and remove all the grinding dust and debris and stuff. And now, this looks pretty good. You can see those couple brown spots there. That's actually the surface of this material, so we've ground pretty much all the way through there. And you can see the surface and the gaps start to come in here. This is that same thing. So that actually looks pretty good. Normally I would just go ahead and weld this right now, but since I said I'd demonstrate it, we will. All right, so the next thing to keep in mind is if there were just a few tiny little dots way down in the back of this thing, I probably would want to sit here and plow into that with the big traditional hard abrasive disc, because that's going to remove a ton of material and then we'll have to fill it all back in, and there probably wasn't anything wrong with that material in the first place. So I'm going to use a cutoff disc like this one. This one's only 45 thousandths of an inch thick, and it's good for little surgical precision removals up in here. The downside to these is, as they're made for cutting, just like straight in, you can't bend it. You can't do any of this nonsense, because if you do, the wheel will straight up explode. Seen it happen once, hope to never see that ever again. So, if you just have tiny little dots of material left, it's really easy to just fire this thing up and poke it in there and just cut them out. Kind of like that. That's all there is to it. So now, looking in here as close as I can, there's no visible porosity. There's no visible defects anywhere. All there is clean metal, and in a few places there's the gap of the two pieces of material. So there you go. That's something I actually learned in trade school. We did all kinds of open root welding, and it was fairly common to fudge up part of your root or botch a tie-in or whatever. So you just have to get in there and slice it out. When you get porosity like that, it's really not the end of the world. It can be extremely frustrating. That's the thing about wire feed welding. When it works, it's great. It's very strong, very fast, and pretty simple to run. When it doesn't work, there's like a million different things it could be. And if you ever want to be more than a production trigger puller, you got to learn how to fix stuff like this and ideally get the machine back to running. So, yeah, that's your little lesson of the day. Like I said, didn't really want to make this video, but now you know, and that's something someone had to show me, and I had to figure out other parts of it myself. So hopefully I can pass this on to you guys, make it a little easier on you. Whatever you do, if it's anything remotely critical project-wise, don't just weld over it. Very bad idea. So that's what I would consider to be a pretty textbook weld repair. And we're gonna get the sprayer process running on this welder, and then we're gonna get this thing all nice and welded up. So thanks for watching, everybody.